All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 4 o'clock on Tuesday, August 17th, 2021, and we will bring this meeting of the Human Services and Personnel Committee to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Counsel.
Here.
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 Radke.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next up on the agenda is the minutes from July 20th, 2021.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported, moved by Commissioner Coonan, supported by Commissioner Krieger. Moved and supported, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are in. Now is the opportunity for public input. Is there anyone here today who would like to address the Personnel Human Services Committee?
Is this the time we would address the question having to do with community corrections, or?
This is just an opportunity for anyone to go ahead and give any public input. If you'd like to go ahead and say something, you're more than welcome to do that.
I'm Harry Gill. I'm one of the judges over there down the street, and this is Dewana Sullivan, and that is Sheriff Cunningham. And this is Ashley from the Sheriff's Department. And one of the things on your agenda today is the request that you add a full-time person to the Pretrial Services Department. Judge Clyde is here by Zoom. I don't know if she's got her video on, but she's here by Zoom. And we just want to emphasize to you why we're making that request. I'm also the chairperson of the Community Corrections Advisory Board. The reason we're making this request is it's, I think, important for public safety. These are the people, and I'll let Joanna chime in here if she wants to, because I probably don't understand her job as well as she does, but these are the people who investigate the people who come in for bond. They let us know what their records are. They let us know what services they need. They do some screening. So far, so look good. Like as to substance abuse, like as to prior convictions. So the judge who sets the bond has an idea of a couple of things. First, is this person a threat to public safety? You don't know that just based on what they're charged on, and you don't put somebody in jail without bond or a high bond just because they've been charged with a bad deed. You need to know a little bit about them, separate and apart from the allegations. The second part of the job is when we do let them out on bond, and it makes a difference to judges when they give somebody a bond that they can achieve, what are we going to be able to do to keep track of them? So that if you're charged with operating while intoxicated, fourth, how are we going to know this person doesn't consume alcohol? We test them. We test them on a random basis. We make them show up and show their face to Dewana. We make them perhaps get assessed for whether they need substance abuse treatment. When we have those things in place, perhaps we can save you folks, or all of us, represented by you folks, the cost of the hotel bill that Sheriff Cunningham has. That's why it's important. We need to know when somebody comes before us. Now, the district judges have much more responsibility for that initially than we do, but I have it in my court too. I get people, you know, they don't show up for testing. Well, we don't have anybody to follow up. And why didn't you show up for testing? It's a matter of public safety, and it's a matter of, I think Captain Stewart came up with some figures. I hope that those got submitted. You could actually pay for this position if you implemented this plan. Dewana, what have I forgotten to say?
A lot.
We have a question?
Yes,
No,
Commissioner?
no, go ahead.
Basically, Judge covered it all. The other part, I just need to make clarification on. He said that they report to me. These individuals, nope, you're fine. These individuals are bond cases, and that's why they're up under the pretrial services department. So pretrial services looks out over all of the bond cases. My part on the other end, I'm on his side of the fence, and so I manage and oversee the pretrial department and the staff in that department, just so everybody's clear.
What I meant to say is when it doesn't go right, I call her.
So, yeah, so, and everything the judge said is true. And yes, we are a cost-saving department, the pretrial department is. Because for every person that we remove from jail, we could put them in the community. So therefore, it saves taxpayers, it saves the sheriff, and it saves the county money. And again, public safety is a big factor in this. So if we don't have anybody tracking the individuals that are out on bond, we don't know what they're doing. And currently at this point, nobody has been tracked since my pretrial person decided to resign in June. The part-time position that we already have funding for right now is only supposed to have 95 people on the caseload. As of this morning, there are 191 individuals under pretrial services. But we have nobody tracking these individuals because we have no staff. We cannot keep a part-time person because the way that this is designed, there is a lot of data that we have to consume and put into a database system that the state tracks for us, and that's how we get funding for the pretrial department. When my last person came on, we started implementing the exact program descriptions the way it's supposed to go. Prior to that, the state let us slide a little bit because they knew our person was a part-time person, and so we just didn't have enough man hours to cover what needed to be covered. But as of fiscal year 2020, that is no longer a factor. We have to abide by the program descriptions. If we do not abide by the program descriptions, they are going to take the funding away from pretrial services, period, point blank. And so that is why we are here today, asking and requesting that our positions be filled.
So, Judge, I'm assuming that activity at the courts have been low because of everything that we've gone through, but now that things hopefully are opening up, I would assume the activity at the courts are going to increase. So the number. Okay, well, that's good to hear.
We've already resumed jury trials. We only actually had one, but there've been 3 that we've tried to do. And it's going to get much more active.
So these individuals that we want to put into this program in Joanna's area, it's not going to stay the same. I'm assuming that those numbers are going to continue to increase.
Yeah.
And I think
Arrests were actually down. She's basing this on, they didn't arrest everybody they could have arrested or even should have arrested because they didn't want to put them in the jail. Those are now starting to happen. And I think the population is going up. And also, since society is more open, more stuff is happening that results in the intervention of the criminal justice system. So yes, the numbers are going to go up.
so with everything that I've been exposed to and all the different conversations, my biggest concern is as those numbers increase, if we don't do something, we'll go further underwater and not be able to provide the services that we need.
Exactly, because that's the boat we're in right now.
And as Joanna said, if we don't comply with the MDOC rules, we'll lose this grant. And so we'll basically have no pretrial services unless you choose to pay for it.
Okay.
Can I just ask, what does tracking involve? Are people tethered and they're able to go home, or can you educate me just a little?
Yes, ma'am. So under the tracking part of it, so we have pretrial assessment, we have pretrial supervision. The assessment that the pretrial department does, this is the assessment that the judge was talking to, where all of the information about the offender goes into a report. So it's a brief synopsis about background and history of the person. That goes over to the courts for arraignment. When the judge sees this report, in that report gives them a bond recommendation. In that bond recommendation, it's going to say, should this person be alcohol testing, drug testing? It gives a frequency, it gives a recommended bond amount. So we have alcohol testing and drug testing that are tracked. These people test anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. to 1 to 3 times a month. And then we have daily PBT testers. Those people are not being tracked at this moment. So we don't know if they're actually coming in and complying with their bond conditions or not. The other part of the supervision piece is that anybody that tests for drugs or alcohol in Bay County also has to be up under supervision. So supervision happens 1 to 4 times a month. So they call in, they make a monthly report, or they come in face-to-face. We stopped the face-to-face once the COVID hit. Hopefully, we may go back to that. I'm not really sure at this point, but yes, they are tracked. They have to call in, they have to say who they are, they have to say what's going on, if they got any new charges, sentencing dates. So it's an information back and forth thing. So once they call in, give their report, the pretrial person then takes that report, marks it down, and puts it into the database system. And so that's how we keep track of people. So those that are not doing this, those notices go over to the judges. They're supposed to go in a timely fashion, but again, we don't have anybody in that position, but yes. Yeah, so if no one's tracking them, but in a perfect pretrial, yes. If they do not show up, then we send a notice over to the courts, and then the courts issues a bench warrant or a hearing or something to the effect to address the non-compliance.
Thank you.
May I read it the bracket, it's about 36,000, and it'd be 25,000 of our general fund,
Correct,
but you could lose that grant if you're not complying with the.
correct.
Mr. Good.
Thank you. Just so I get a little clarification, you got like 190 people that are out on bond. And we're going to track them at some point, but are they awaiting a hearing? Are they awaiting a trial? Are they awaiting sentencing? How does this happen? I mean, how do they?
Yes, while they're out on bond, their case is going through the court procedure. So they have to go for preliminary hearings, then it's.
If it's a felony.
So it's hearings going on while they're out on bond. I don't know all of the titles or all of the hearings.
Basically, it's all of the above you listed. They could be awaiting a preliminary hearing, they could be waiting a trial in district court, they could be waiting a trial in circuit court, they could have the case resolved and are awaiting that.
So over time, let's say a month, you get 100, say you got 190 people, some of them have been processed and whatever happened, if they are sentenced or they just get probation, whatever, then you have new people coming in on a
Correct.
daily basis.
So the average length of stay for somebody on bond conditions under pretrial services is usually averaging about 120 to 200 days or so.
And then
I'm sorry, 180 to 200.
so they, during that time frame, then their case gets completed, whatever that may be.
Mhm.
Then it would be taken over if they're put on probation by either the Michigan Department of Corrections or just like the
District
court
court.
probation.
Okay.
Anything else? Mr.
No,
Parker?
but I appreciate you being here. That was very helpful. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, Judge, could you explain how this might enhance your effectiveness in the drug court?
Well, I think it does enhance our effectiveness in the drug court because through DeWanna is how we find people who might be eligible for drug court, and then we go talk to them, either in the jail or we talk to their lawyers if they're out on bond. And we don't usually have any idea with the current way it's going, people not getting assessed. It's really hurt our population in drug court because we just don't have the people to talk to that we did. Now, if we had this system back up and running, it gives us a list to work off of. And not everybody's willing to do it, but it will give us a lot more numbers. Thank you for asking.
Thanks.
So if I know ordinarily we would do this after we actually brought it up, so it's fine. So I'm glad you were all able to come and give your input, but I just want to make sure that I think I've got it right. You've got a grant that will fund partially the services that you need, right? Right now you've got a half-time person whose caseload is greater than even a full-time person would carry. So you're going to be asking for an additional full-time along with the half-time, of which the grant will cover the half-time and 36,000
correct.
of the services of the full-time you're asking for.
Yes.
So essentially, you need $25,000 to be able to make that a 1.5 person job,
Correct.
and then you feel you'd be able to have it. And from what I understand from the data you sent, you're not that far away from actually having that full-time and the half-time, completely full. And in fact, the numbers are 6 people higher than what you sent me yesterday. So
We have people that came in today to sign.
that's right. So it's moving fast. And if we don't do something like this, you're already possibly out of compliance. So then they could take that grant away at any time, and now you've got to cover full cost for everything.
Correct.
Is that correct? All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anything to add? Maybe we ask Judge Clyde if she has anything?
Yeah.
Judge Clyde, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not much, except a couple of points that were made when Commissioner Krieger was asking if the numbers are going to be increasing. They're increasing exponentially because now we're issuing more and more bench warrants. And the flip side of this is when nobody's watching the fox in the hen house, you can imagine what happens. And these defendants, it does not take long for them to realize nobody's paying attention. And then they start, if it's alcohol that is the issue, they start just getting more and more bold with that. It's human nature. People are going to continue to do certain things until they're held accountable for it. And we could have them in front of us for a pretrial hearing or a settlement conference hearing. And under old circumstances, when someone was watching all of this and sending us notices, we would have them in front of us and we could deal with those violations right then. We let them know, we know they're missing or they haven't signed up or whatever the case might be. And they might go to jail for a few days because of it. But at least we're dealing with it and they know they're going to be dealt with, and typically harshly. But what's happening now is they come in front of us, we don't know that. So you might, and most of the time right now, there's a lot of them are still coming in via Zoom. So if you think they're going to volunteer that information to us, they're not. They're not going to volunteer that hey, Judge, I've been drinking and, I'm over at the Bell Bar all the time. They're not going to do that. So we can't deal with it when the problem is fresh and we can kind of nip it in the bud and get them on track again. Or at least let them know that they're going to be dealt with. Violations of bond are no small matter. When people are caught violating their bond conditions, they go over to the Fine Inn at 3rd Street. And, then usually it doesn't take long and they understand that might not be the place that they'd like to reside in very long. But right now, I couldn't say it any stronger. We literally have no oversight. We don't know what they're doing. And that is a public hazard. It really is. It bothers the judges. I know it's bothered Dwana. We've had lots of conversations about it. I strongly support this. This really is a good investment of money for the safety of our community. Thank you.
Would you agree there are people that don't get a makeable bond because we don't have enough information or confidence that we can supervise them under the current situation?
Oh, absolutely. Dwana and her people, they gather a lot of things that we don't know. We don't know if they're working. And if they're working and you can put some testing provisions, you've got a really good chance because they don't want to lose a job. So, that's incentive for them to stay safe and sober. So, but when we don't have that information, you're going through an arraignment process, and I had a bunch yesterday and I had quite a few today again. And it took a long time just for me to go through what little criminal history I have. Whereas pretrial services gather so much more information about the family, their employment status. Are they in school? Are they on disability? Do they have a mental health issue? Are they a veteran? I mean, I could go on. There's just tons of information that they gather that then the judges can use when setting an appropriate bond.
Thank you, Judge. And, yep.
I handle the accounting for the facility over at the jail, and I just wanted to point out, Joanna was saying these offenders are with your program for 180 to 200 days. I just wanted to point out, if these people are not getting bond and they're not meeting bond, they're going to be in the jail with us for 180 to 220 days. And it costs us at least $10 a day. I would say more than that. I don't have the exact figures from Captain Stewart. He's gone this week. But we're not recouping any of that money because these people aren't sentenced yet. We don't recoup a lot from the sentenced people because we only recoup about 9% from them, but we're not recouping anything from unsentenced people. So we need to keep in mind that, like Duana said, this is a cost savings program. Like that's the money that she's saving from us, from these people not being incarcerated. So by being able to set a bond from them, Duana is really saving a lot of money to the community by keeping these people out of jail.
Thank you very much. No, that was actually the last point I was going to try and make, because you had sent the data on that Captain Stewart had sent. So it really more than pays for itself anyway. So I'm glad you were able to make that more succinctly than I would. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone else that has public input today? All right, so we'll move into petitions and communications, and petition number 1, actually, letter A in your packet, is the probate court administrator new temporary position. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi. I didn't know if anybody had questions or
No, no,
we
go
answered
ahead.
all your questions.
Nope, go right ahead.
Do you have any questions? I should be comfortable standing up here. I'm up here like at least twice a year, so.
I'll move that so we can discuss it.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved, supported.
Being that you're up there, if you could just kind of give us a little synopsis, that'd be great.
Sure, absolutely. So the Office of Assigned Counsel no longer exists within the court system. That was absorbed by MIDC, which is the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission. Thank you. I don't know, it's on the other side of the hallway. So with OAC going, Lisa Borch, who previously worked in our Office of Assigned Counsel, she continued to take on those tasks for us, but as I understand, the grant no longer provides for them, which is understandable. It's not, a court-sponsored grant. So with that, we have additional responsibilities that our staff in probate and juvenile court just is not able to absorb at this time. Many of the commissioners who are longstanding, as well as our personnel committee, will know that juvenile court, especially the family side, has just grown exponentially in terms of our neglect and abuse cases, and that's a big portion of these responsibilities. So our staff just cannot reabsorb the work. I know on paper, it doesn't look like a lot, but 10 hours a week, supporting 4 jurists is a lot. So we have some ideas how we're going to provide for this long-term, but I need a couple more months to get there. So in the meantime, we're just asking that you temporarily fund someone to come in, assist us with these duties, so that I can then come back in December and tell you what my plan is.
And what was the cost that you were looking to get?
The figure I gave Jan today was really on the high side. I said about $3,600 through the end of the year. All of our attorneys, depending on the department, so our office handles all the guardianship and conservatorship for adults and minor children. We handle all the delinquency cases and then all the dependent neglect cases. So all of our attorneys are billing at different amounts, different volumes, kind of at different times. So I wanted to just give us a little bit of a buffer. We're hoping not more than 10 hours a week through the end of the year. So I put a little extra in there just so I didn't have to come back and say, hey, I have this great idea, but in the meantime, I need more money.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Now, you got somebody in mind for this, or?
Yes.
Because you're not going to bring somebody in off the street to do it.
No, we have a employee of the court that just recently retired. She's completely familiar with all of our processes and our computer systems. She has volunteered to come back and assist. It'll be seamless. It won't take any time to train her, so we're not wasting any time. We're getting all this caught up while we resolve it.
Any other discussion? Thank you.
Sure.
So it has been moved and supported. So all in favor? 1 second.
Wait. In this proposal, there is nothing, there's no range of what the proposed expenditure is. It just says not to exceed 15 hours. I am not comfortable approving, an open checkbook. I would prefer that it says something of not to exceed $3,500 or not to exceed $3,600 in order to be just on record fiscally responsible.
Our proposal is to pay this individual $15 an hour at a max of 10 hours a week. I don't know if that helps.
Well, the proposal here is not to exceed 15 hours a week, and there's no dollar amount. So I'm not, I would prefer that any motion just reflect the conversation here.
Sure.
That's all.
Okay.
Would you like to amend the motion?
Well, you can provide that information at the full board meeting.
Absolutely.
And give Commissioner Fox and the rest of us
Yeah.
the information that, and then, down the road, when I'm sure it's going to be in your budget next year for a new position.
I'm hoping not.
Okay, good.
I'm
All right,
hoping to be
but,
creative.
If you can just kind of provide the
Yes,
dollars and.
I apologize. I just came back from maternity leave and this was on my stack of things to do in a month. So my letter to you was a little less descriptive than I normally would have liked to have been. So I apologize. That was kind of my error, not providing enough information that I finally gave to Jan today. So,
There's a lot of us here that aren't well-versed in all of these things.
yeah, I hear you. Absolutely.
So I know it's second nature to you, but
Yeah, no problem.
All right, anyone else? So now it has been moved, supported. Discussion. Again, all in favor? Opposed? All right, so we'll move down to petition B. Let's see, this one is the Personnel Director's vacancies, and it's got some new grant-funded positions that are in here as well, including the Community Corrections Pretrial Specialist.
So
Has been moved, supported by Commissioner Coonan. Any discussion?
Yeah, I was just going to ask one question on that, and I think how you guys explained it, it's well needed, and we're saving a lot of money. That's the question I have. We're saving money now. How come we didn't do it last year?
Well, I have been saving money every year. I can't give you an account of it right now. However, in the quarterly reports that we send over to Marsha's office, it's in that quarterly report. If you want direct numbers, I can give those to you when I get back to my office sometime this week. But we have always been a cost-saving department because we are using jail alternatives for keeping people in the community versus keeping them in jail. That's the pretrial side. My side, on the other side, I keep people out of the big house, and so therefore it saves all of us money on the taxpayers' end as well. So, but yeah, I can give you specific numbers if you like.
No, I think it's a good idea, if it was such a good idea.
Yeah, we've been doing it the whole time. We've just never been at this stage to where we had enough people to come with us to say, yes, this needs to be a full-time position now.
Full-time plus part-time.
Yeah, yes.
Any other discussion? All right, has been moved and supported. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right, so that moves, and then we go down to petition C, that is the Office of Assigned Counsel June report. Motion to receive.
So moved.
support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we will receive those, and now we will move on to referrals. Referral A is the County Clerk Elections Coordinator. That was referred from the previous Personnel Human Services Committee meeting, July 20th, 2021.
Being that I hear we're getting, we'll have a new clerk at some point, but the current clerk is retiring. We should probably wait till we get whoever it's going to be in and looks at the office and provides us some information at that time.
So are you,
Well, I don't think we refer it. I
Right.
think we just maybe kill it.
withdraw it at this point?
Is that the word? Withdraw?
Table it.
That's the word I would use.
Yeah, table indefinitely.
So we'll table that at this time until the new person takes over and gets the lay of the land. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other discussion on that matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So that will be done. All right. Any other unfinished business? I don't see any here listed. Any new business that anyone would like to bring? Because there's nothing listed here. Miscellaneous, yes, sir.
I see that Joel Strauss is on Zoom. I'm not sure, Joel, are you there?
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Can you give us a little insight of where we're at with all that's been on the media about this Delta virus?
Sure.
And how bad?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to say is, we spent the entire month of June and most of July at very low rates, probably some of the lowest rates that we've had since the beginning of the pandemic. And it was a welcome respite from the high case numbers. And as you had reflected, that there is in the southern United States and now pretty much throughout the United States, the spread of the Delta variant and the return of high case numbers. And that's certainly the reality here in Bay County. Now, we are not as high yet as what we were before the holiday season last year, or as high as we were over the Easter holiday into the month of May a few months ago. But all indications are with the transmissibility of the Delta variant, which is 4 to 6 times more transmissible. It has 4 to 6 times more viral load than the original strain of the virus, that it's a very serious condition, and we are trying to prepare and to mitigate as much as possible throughout the community to stop the spread. Right now, we've got about 55% of the population is fully vaccinated from the ages 12 and up, and that's a good thing. And but we need a lot more people to get vaccinated. We've got about 61, maybe 60, about 61% of the entire population has received at least one dose, and the metrics for those doses are very from age category to age category. Obviously, the older age categories are more vaccinated than the youngers, but we're seeing teenagers, especially 16 and 19-year-olds, are vaccinated at a much higher rate than 20 to 29-year-olds. What we will see in the next few weeks and in the few months is that the majority of the new cases is going to occur in unvaccinated people. And if it's anything like it has been in Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, is that could be a substantial amount of the population. Michigan's numbers and Bay County's numbers are very similar to what you see in Florida. So we expect that, it's kind of like dry tinder in a forest fire. The unvaccinated are really going to be hit pretty hard. And there's going to be a number of vaccinated people as we see that there's quote breakthrough infections. Now, the overwhelming majority of people that are vaccinated and still test positive have mild symptoms, sometimes asymptomatic symptoms, but they still can get the virus, obtain a virus, and transmit the virus. And we're in a high period of transmission right now. We're a little bit below 10% test positivity, but yesterday we were above that. It's going to fluctuate. But especially with schools coming on board, there's a lot of concern that that's going to be another stockpile or of dry tinder for the virus to go through as well. We don't want to see some of the serious pediatric cases that they're seeing down south. Most kids that get this have a very mild illness, but there are increasing numbers of individuals, especially younger individuals, that are having more serious cases. We are in constant communication with the schools, and we had a very frank discussion about an hour and a half ago with community leaders about what we can do to help mitigate the spread. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about, well, you should mandate masks because the schools aren't doing this. But it's just a thing of masks and proper fitting masks are only one layer in a multi-layered approach to help mitigate the spread of this. Number one is vaccination. So for those people that are eligible to be vaccinated, they should go get vaccinated, whether it's themselves, especially if they have younger children. Parents are more likely to spread that to younger children than vice versa. But parents should get vaccinated because they may have to, if they have to take care of their children, or they could spread this throughout the community as well. So that's one important thing. The second important thing, obviously, is masking. Another thing is good ventilation and avoiding crowded spaces right now. Doing as many outdoor activities as you can, because it's much more difficult to transmit the virus in an outdoor setting than in an indoor setting. Adequate testing, especially in schools. We have a program where we test kids that normally would be quarantined so we can keep them in schools, but that requires the consent of the school to do that and the consent of the parents of the students to do that as well. And then finally, just making sure that when somebody is exposed and they're supposed to quarantine, or if they're sick, that they stay home and don't spread the illness further. These are same basic strategies that we've had outside of vaccination, but vaccination is the key thing. Now, today we went over 100,000 doses for the first time, which is a good milestone, but we have got a long, long way to go. There's a lot of difficult decisions and a lot of people with that are passionate on both sides. And we're actively trying to use the best scientific decisions that we've had. We realize that there are some limitations as to what we can do as well. But all options are open at this point in time.
Joel, if I could.
Yes.
So all of a sudden now in the media, you're starting to hear more and more about these booster shots. So if all of a sudden it comes down that it's recommended, where do we stand with vaccinations to be able to address the demand if that happens?
Okay, so the booster or the third dose has been authorized for persons that are immunocompromised or have certain conditions that may automatically lower their immune system or immune defense system. So basically anybody that's receiving treatment for cancer or chemotherapy or things like that, if they have already a condition that has them, that lowers their immune defenses in their system, if they're on immunosuppressive drugs, maybe they had a transplant or something to that effect. There's a whole variety of conditions that CDC and MDHHS have outlined towards that. What we're telling people right now is, number one, don't just show up to the health department, although we can give you a vaccine today, your third vaccine, talk to your doctor first about what's best for you. You might not need to get that third dose, but there's a lot of people that probably do need to get that, and they really should talk to their physician first. And then as soon as we get that okay, they can come to the health department or one of our clinics or any clinic in the community and get that third dose. Every provider is different in how they screen to do this, but we're actively working, to get people the shots they need as soon as possible. Now, right now, we've got adequate supply of vaccine, and we're working pretty closely with MDHHS. I don't expect that we're going to have any shortages of vaccine, but for those people that need to get that third dose, we can give that to them as soon as possible. I also anticipate that probably somewhere down the road in the next month or so, that there's going to be further decisions made about third doses. Pretty similar to what they're doing maybe in Israel, but that's really up to CDC and the folks at FDA to make that decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Begic, go ahead.
Yeah, so I heard nursing homes that they're putting them on the immunocompromised list, that they're gonna try to get everybody in nursing homes. That was something I saw on the paper, it would fall in that immunocompromised category. And I also heard like the 8 months after your last shot to get a booster shot. Now that's not been approved by the CDC, but they're talking about an 8-month booster after your second shot. It's coming down the road, but you think we have enough vaccine on hand, it sounds like, for that.
The only, I'll mention this too, because it's important. The only vaccine that hasn't been authorized for a booster shot is Johnson & Johnson. And we've been notified by MDHHS that FDA and CDC are still looking into that. But it's basically the mRNA vaccines right now.
Thank you, Joel. All right, do we have any announcements? No? All right.
Move to adjourn.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.